Welcome to Chapter 4, where we're going to be discussing individual values, perceptions, and reactions. So in Chapter 4, here's some of our objectives. We're going to discuss how attitudes are formed. We're going to look at work-related attitudes. Number 2, describe the role, importance of values and emotions, in the workforce. And number 3, we're going to especially discuss stress. Talk about what causes stress and how stress can be managed, because we're certainly going to find stress in the workforce. Attitudes, So we're going to define attitudes as a person's complex beliefs and feelings about specific ideas, about these situations and about other people's, And these things come from, the first part is cognition, what we think we know about something, And the cognition helps determine anyway, the effect, how a person feels towards that something that they think they know about, and this leads to an intention for behavior. So we can see from a different slide, we have cognition feeds into both affect and combines with that effect and feeds into behavior intention. Again, behavior intention is how we planned to behave. Now, in the workforce, in job design, we often talk about work-related attitudes such as job satisfaction. By that, we mean the extent to which a person is gratified or fulfilled by their work. So do they find satisfaction in the work they do? So earlier I referred to firefighters, Do they find satisfaction? Yeah, I like my job. I like working with the crew. I like working with I'm friends with the people in my station. I love to save people, and quite frankly, I like the excitement of jumping in a big truck with the sirens blaring, and you pull up to a site and there's smoke coming out of a building, and we put on our gear and rush in there, and I get a big kick out of that, So I know a firefighter, and that's exactly how he thinks of his job. Organizational commitment, So how much does the person identify with that organization? I'm a member of this organization and I'm proud of it. I think of myself, my personal self-image is partially related to my organization. I'm proud to be a member of this organization. This is what the organization does. This is how I fit into it. And then that kind of leads to employee engagement, a heightened emotional or intellectual connection to the job. And that leads the employee to be more motivated to do things like, even when they're not at work, they're thinking about work, or maybe they're checking email, or they're doing other activities that aid in their work, because they find the work interesting, they find the work fulfilling, they have a high level of job satisfaction. So we can see from this next slide, these different factors that go into job satisfaction. It's the work itself, it's the person's personality, it's also their values and attitudes about that particular job. And we know that the more job satisfaction our employees get, often the more they put into their job and the more the organization gets out of them. So we've mentioned values a little bit, and we've talked about how people vary, We've talked about the Big Five personality test. We've talked about Hofstede measuring people's differences in different national cultures. We've talked about things like the Myers-Briggs test. So certainly different people have different types of values. And here's a few terms we might refer to them as, what are their terminal values, their long-term goals, their instrumental values, their preferred way of behaving, intrinsic versus extrinsic, Are they intrinsically doing something because they like the activity itself, or is it extrinsic because they get something out of it? It could be monetary, it could be acclaim from their peers, it could be society acclaim, all those kind of things, And here we get a look at how, on average, values might differ around the world. So remember when I talked about Hofstede's model, I said whenever you say these people in this country are the same, you're very much at risk of not being accurate. But on the other hand, it helps us to understand that people in the U.S., which is here on the right, in the middle right, are different than people over here on the middle left, Romania, And then above Romania over here we have Russia. So this kind of gives us an idea, and also gives us an idea who's more like us. So interesting that the people are grouped English-speaking over here because they have similar national cultures, and the other places they're grouped by location, So and that has to do with the way those countries were filled in by people from Europe. And down here we have Africa, Southeast Asia, the ex-communist countries over here, and so forth. right? So we see how they're somewhat related. So we can see who's most like us in the U.S. The Australians are like us, the Canadians, the New Zealanders, and the Irish in Great Britain. Right? Not a big surprise there. So our neighbors to the south are Mexico, right? So Mexico's not too far from us on here. I'm having a hard time locate them. Oh, here we are, right? So not terribly far from us.